He's been very candid about his addiction, about his promiscuity. He's never not admitted to all of that. So the question is it consensual? And that remains, I don't know. But I do think that there is definitely a lot of reasons that they don't like Russel Brand.
Well, what's the saying about flying too close to the sun?
Yeah. He got very big, and I think he is somewhat controversial. Not to me. Like, to me, I get where he's coming from a lot. He doesn't bother me in the least. And I also I don't know. I just feel like...
Here's the difference, though, with Brand. Unless it's a criminal case, and I don't know what the statute of limitations is in the UK and what they're trying to do, but when it comes down to it, monetarily speaking, I don't think he gives a damn at all, because he's got a lot of money.
No, but someone who made a really good point about this, as per usual, is Kim Iverson.
About the employees, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the thing. So, and Russel Brand, like she said, he'll be fine. But this does affect his employees that do run the show and do that. And it's unnecessary to do so, certainly at this point. That's why you have to think it's somewhat politically motivated. Because the fact that you would demonetize him without any, not that it's a criminal situation where they have to see beyond a reasonable doubt, because you don't. But it's really being used politically, regardless of whether or not the accusations are true. It's being used politically. That's how I see it, and I am averse to people being demonetized.
Yeah, this is the thing that I think Nelson makes a good point on, is that evidently, this was like apparently a known thing that Russell was, a skirt chaser of the highest order.
Oh, yeah.
And probably involved himself in situations, whether it was an actual rape or
he,
assault,
of course, has come out and very flatly said that he admits to all of the promiscuity and that everything was consensual. And that is the concern. Like, I don't care how promiscuous he was. That's between him and whoever he was promiscuous with, right? Like, that's not the issue. So I think that it's weird that this is coming up now, when someone has been so open about their drug usage, their addiction, their promiscuity, their all of that, and then years and years and years go by, and now he's being accused of these things that are non-consensual. I just think it's weird. It's not like he ever denied the things.
And even and let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it's true that he did sexually assault or even rape these individuals. The actions of the powers that be is only helping his case and the people who support him, and completely looking at it from the perspective of, we have a ruling class that can basically take people out whenever they want. And again, that's not to suggest that it's not real, but this is the reality of what ends up happening. Do you remember when they accused Julian Assange of rape? And then, of course, it turns out it was bullshit. I'm not saying it's the same thing. It's not. But there is nuanced context to the actions that will be taken in order to take somebody down.
I find it, to me, it's suspicious when it's timed like that. And again, I will have to see what victims, people come forward and what they say and how it's been, but it is very strange to me that this happened so many years ago by someone who has admitted those behaviors, but now you're claiming it wasn't consensual. Like, it just seems suspicious to me. That's all. Well, no, but that's different. She talked about it all along. The only reason that's different. She talked about it then. She talked about it all along. That was an attack that happened to her. And and here's the other thing. Russel Brand is not being appointed to the Supreme Court. Russel Brand isn't running for office. Russel Brand has a platform and a business, and those are unrelated things. I don't expect Russel Brand to live up to the highest standards of jurisprudence and judicial conduct. I don't expect that of Russel Brand. He would probably laugh at the idea of that. He's always been pretty open as to who he is and what he is. He's a comedian and a movie person. He's not running the government, and he's not seeking to sit on our Supreme Court. Also, what we're talking about with Christine Blasey Ford, she did come, all of that stuff, she was hesitant. The only reason she came forward was because he got to that point, and it's like, this is stuff people should know about. But what is Russel Brand? It's apples and oranges. You know, I would not want Russel Brand sitting on my Supreme Court, if that makes you feel any
And
better.
the one thing that people did say the other day, which I agree with 100%, and this is again the whole thing about respecting the rule of law. Are you innocent until proven guilty, or are you guilty until proven innocent? And we're living in a world today where people do believe that you are guilty until proven innocent. And that's happening to somebody with power, with money, with means. This happens all the time.
See now, and if he does, let's say he gets convicted and a jury of his peers says he did those things, okay? Then I can choose whether or not I want to support him as an entertainer or a commentator, as to what I choose to watch and don't watch, or whatever it is. Like, then that would be my choice as to whether or not to do that. But I don't see enough evidence that warrants just coming out and demonetizing someone because you heard some things.
Yeah.
We got demonetized and we don't even know what that's about. So it's hard for me, given my position, to not see that that's how this works sometimes. The timing of it's very suspect.
Yeah.
And if there are victims, I need to see the story. I need to see the evidence.
Bottom line, let's see if they actually move forward with something, or if the intent was basically just to threaten him and knock him off his perch from a financial standpoint.
But it's only really hurting his employees.
Correct.
Because and that, just like all these types of things, like sanctions and embargoes and all of these kinds of blockades, all these things only affect the real working people. You're not going to really hurt Russel Brand.
No, and he'll survive this, if you will.
Oh, for sure. He was surviving it fine up until a couple years ago, just fine, before he had this many followers.
But
right?
the sad reality is that this story completely divided along partisan lines. If you just look at what's written on social media, my attitude is let the justice system play itself out, if that's what's going to happen. When the judge, jury, and executioner is one that decides whether you have bread or not, without evidence. Again, could there be evidence? Yes, but nothing's been proven. There is no court case. There is nothing. There is just, he did this, believe me, let's go.
And you demonetize. Like, I find it scary. I don't like that at all. That's not, I don't support that stuff.
And so, and here's what I'm going to, and we'll end here. But one thing that I think a lot of people need to remember, and I've always said this regarding whether or not the allegations were true against President Biden. Tara Reade said very specifically that if you want the proof that I'm not lying, there is a sealed file at the University of Delaware archives that they refuse to release. Release that file and you'll get your truth. She's telling you where it's at and how to get it, and they won't release it.
Of course.
You know why they won't? Because the truth is probably what she said. And that's how you know. And that will be the same for a lot of other people that will come forward and say what they're going to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some evidence. I really am.
Something.
And yes, I do tend to believe that. I will generally err on the side of believing victims when it's fresh, when it's current. But when you're coming this many years later with all of these circumstances, yeah, we're going to need to see. I'm going to need to see.
And
some
that's where,
evidence.
like you said, the significance of the Kavanaugh situation is the fact that he was trying to become the most powerful judge, or one of the 9 most powerful judges in the world.
And by the way, the demeanor, and here's what he's disqualified as far as I'm concerned. He disqualified himself just from his demeanor. Just his, but his demeanor during those hearings. He was just looked like a belligerent alcoholic with rosacea. And it was absurd. And, that's the thing. It's like Russel Brand isn't that, and nor is he aiming to be in a position of power over the policy of our entire nation.
And one last thing, you don't like what evidence? You don't like my music other than victim testimony? Let me tell you something, you don't like my music. One of the things that does tend to happen many times when women are sexually assaulted, raped, etc., generally speaking, especially in the very soon aftermath of when it happens, somebody in their trusted confidence hears about it in some capacity. It could be a text message. It could be a letter. It could be written in a journal. But generally speaking, there is something that is linked directly to that circumstance that says that I was they don't even and you know this, especially with the Jane Doe cases, they don't even necessarily name who the person is, but they'll tell you that something terrible happened to me. You know who told somebody that something terrible happened to them? Tara Reade told her mother that something terrible happened to her by a very powerful person, and her mother proceeded to call in to Larry King in 1993, and it's on video that this actually happened.
Yeah.
You see, that's when you know that there's something there. I guarantee you that if anyone that has been in the presence of Brand or went through something of this nature, there's also the circumstance where they may ask their friend, this happened to me. I'm not sure if I was assaulted or not, but I don't feel right about what happened to me. Something's wrong. There's always some shred of evidence. Something's always there.
And I again, timing speaks volumes to me. And I don't know. And here's the thing is that, you know, we're not talking about whether or not I believe them at this point. That's a separate issue. At this point, we're talking about, I don't believe he should be demonetized at this point. That's it. But that's not my thing.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.